Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Shares with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives, happening every day, every other day at least, on evisradio.com around 12 o'clock. For our lunchtime marketing segment, proudly supported by Hollard Insurance for hashtag big ads for small businesses. Joining us at our marketing and communications expert, Craig Page-Lee. How are you doing, Craig?
Yeah, I'm well, Kevin. Just appreciating this very chill, fresh weather we're having at the moment.
Yeah, you like the weather, the cold, right?
I do. I wish I was outdoors now, just walking with a good thick jacket on and just appreciating. I like the dry cold more than the wet cold, but I do appreciate the cold nevertheless. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the cold, but it's part and parcel of where we live, really.
Yeah.
So, Craig, it was a good conversation we had last week with Mojaki Finger from Thrash, South Africa, on last week's show. And he had some amazing takeaway points for the listeners and speaking to everything he shared about how well his business is doing and what he's actually doing. Don't you want to give our listeners a wrap up synopsis of what we did chat about?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. Just firstly want to reiterate how lucky we are to have speakers like Mojaki come and join us and share those words of wisdom with us. And again, the conversation would never have happened had we not learnt about Hollard Insurance's Big Ads for Small Business campaign. And it's really unlocking many other doors of conversation. So, big up to them in that regard.
I just wanted to add that I was driving on the highway on the weekend, and his face, Mojaki Finger's face, big billboard right alongside the highway. So I'm like, that's exactly what they're doing, right? Big ads, small businesses, and his face is on there. His business name is on there, Thrash South Africa, and it has the whole. It's amazing what they're doing. It's really.
That's awesome. I must. Which part of the motorway was that?
The section of the N1 between 14th Avenue and I think William Nicol.
Okay, cool.
Driving towards 14th on the left-hand side, there's a massive billboard, and Jack is sitting there smiling.
Fantastic.
Hey, he was on the show.
What's incredible, Kevin, is the social media commentary and traction that he's receiving from being on our show as well. And that really is testament to us being able to, continue the goodwill that Hollard Insurance has done. And he's getting some phenomenal response. So really glad that the platform's working. But yes, so key takeout for me from conversation with Mojaki is as follows. Kevin, irrespective of the size of your business you're in or leading, remember to be humble and show humility. And be willing and prepared to learn from others, and where possible, find a mentor or a personal coach to give you the guidance you need for business success. And again, he was quite fortunate to have some good corporate positions where he was able to draw from those leaders that he had around him. So plugging into a mentor in that regard. You also noted that it's important to have a good attitude, and Kevin, energy draws people to you. So when you got a good attitude, you're definitely going to be delivering positive energy, and generally people will gravitate towards you with equal good energy. And in most instances, they'll also be willing to reach up and extend a hand to help you where they can. And no job should be seen as too small or too big. And remember, do it to the best of your ability. He rolled up his sleeves, he packed boxes where he needed to, and delivered as well where he needed to.
Yeah.
Interestingly, like Heidi mentioned in her show, business is about relationships. So don't burn your bridges, as there will be many other moments where you either depend on that previous relationship or the opportunity to augment it, continue down that road, or further business opportunities. It's also vitally important to select staff or business partners that demonstrate the same values as you do. Collective shared values is incredibly important in business success, and attitude, willing to learn from others, self-starters, help where needed, kind of people to be looking out for. Identify the key strengths of each person in the business and delegate the stuff you're not good at doing, but focus on the stuff that you are good at doing. Don't try to be too busy doing too many things. And lastly, I love this, obviously acknowledge that a business plan is essential, but a nice little phrase where it serves as a roadmap for the future and provides a platform to review and recalibrate the business on an ongoing basis and where necessary.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. You know, everything he spoke about, it sort of really showcases the foundation of what a good entrepreneur does, right? And crosses the T's and dots the I's, to the point, gets dirty, gets involved, and really does everything possible to make it, you know, and he's sort of one of those brands that's really gonna step it up. You know, the fact that he's been on the billboards, and I think it's amazing to see it play out in real life, happening right there, where a band goes from being sort of a small little brand in South Africa to a national brand where people know you at a national stage. But I mean,
yeah, so just to that point, it's a good point you make, but I think now more than ever, what Mojaki's got to do is just be careful that he doesn't fall into the trap of doing too many things, because I'm damn sure that on the back of this, there's going to be a lot of interest generated around his business, and hopefully there's some growth that comes of that, and that he doesn't bogged down by some of the perils that we've been talking about. And yeah, when you get to the next point of needing to pivot in the small business.
Yeah, and also, you know, how to scale that up and really make it a really worthwhile brand, because like we've mentioned before, egos are a wonderful thing that gets in the way of holding on tight to the thing you've created. And if you don't know how to let go of that easily, it becomes downfall. But I mean, you mentioned at the end of last week's chat that we've been looking at an important topic in the world of advertising and media today. So what exactly is that, Craig?
Yeah, Kevin, I mentioned that there's a lot of conversation going about regarding the fact that the third-party cookies are not going to be supported across most of the media browsers on the internet by as early as 2022, and it's got huge ramifications for advertisers and publishers moving over into next year, because the entire topic came through on the back of one of the conversations that we spoke about. You'll remember that the general public are outraged at the exploitation of their personal information and their personal details being shared on their online behavior, and as such, ad revenue-driven businesses like Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc., will really need to make some drastic changes to ensure the protection of personal information. But add to this point, Kevin, I'm sure I know I have, so that's why I'm asking if you have. You've probably received a number of SMS and emails from the various brands and sites that you either registered to follow, blogs and things like that regarding protection of your personal information, and all brands have had to send an updated privacy policy and clearly state what and how they're going to use your information for online behavior analysis and that in no way can they sell this information to publishers or other entities for use in unsolicited advertising.
Yes, Craig, I have received a few of the messages, and must say that I think it's good to see that the public act in play and giving people control over how their data is being used.
Yeah, the important thing to remember is that organizations don't just have to keep a record of all the personal data, Kevin, but they also specifically have to monitor the processing of that data, as well as having to account for what kind of data is being processed, because you actually have the right through Poppy or any of the other acts to make contact with them to get them to verify how they're processing it, what it's being stored for, and how it's actually being used.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned that the third-party cookies are not going to be supported across browsers on the internet. But in my limited understanding of the space, I'm aware of the fact that there are also first-party cookies. Is this correct? And if so, what is the difference?
Yeah, they definitely are, and actually there is also a midway point with second-party cookie, which is a hybrid, but really there's a clear difference between first and third-party cookies, Kevin. So let me take you through some of the differences. So I want to reference one of my favorite go-to sources, HubSpot, and take a deeper look at some of the definitions that are provided on the site. So starting with first-party cookies, we learn the following. A first-party cookie is a code that gets generated and stored on a web site visitor's computer. So if I'm online now, you're online now, it'll get stored by default when you visit any of the websites that you're using. Okay, this cookie is often referred to as in place to track and improve the user experience, as it's responsible for remembering password, your basic data, visitor profiles, and some of the other preferences that you may actually select to set in place when you register for those particular sites. And with a first-party cookie, you can then learn about what the user did while visiting that website, as well as how often they visit the site. And that base layer of analytics helps marketers develop effective marketing strategies around your online behavior relative to that site, which in many instances relative to a brand. Also, when you're on the general interweb and search, it'll pick up the respective sites and that you go to. But it's a tag that resides on your laptop or desktop or mobile device. The key point to remember here is that first cookies can't see data related to the online visitor behavior on other sites that aren't affiliated with your domain. So if you own a domain and you've got affiliate partners that are connected to you through LinkedIn, sharing content, hosting articles and things like that, affiliated in terms of advertising, any association with your brand or site, the cookie track can spread across laterally that network and web of connectivity. But if there is no linkage to any other site, then it cannot track or see the data related to your behavior on that particular site as it stands. And Jock, to make it easier to understand, Kevin, the first-party cookies will remember your login information, your language, what items are added to your cart instance of an e-commerce site, and all of this is done to effectively make your online user experience more seamless, more effective, and more personalized to your needs. So if you're running your own website, which is you are, and you run it via content management system, you'll have access to all basic analytics dashboards that the first party cookie data can reveal, including the likes of tracking the number of web sessions on a page, number of pages that people look at in a particular visit, basic browser types, geographical demographics, and even refer to the website where visitors clicked a link straight into your site. So anybody coming in, where they're located, how many entries they have, how many pages they go into, how often they come back, all of that is measured through the taking the first party cookie environment. And those are important things and insights to know for when building targeted campaigns and knowing how users spend time on your site and what information and content they're looking for, so that you can start tailoring messaging back to them relative to that information layer that they're looking for. Yeah. Moving to third-party cookies, however, we understand that they're code that's placed on a web visitor's computer after being generated by another website other than your own. It means that when that same web visitor visits your website and a few others, the third-party cookie tracks the information and sends it to the third party who created that cookie, which in all instances is either an advertiser or a content provider. So coming into your site, leaving your site, going into another environment, but your site is open, the third party cookie is able to tag and track you relative to your breakaway engagements and sessions as well. So for advertisers, the third party cookie data allows them to learn about your web visitors' overall online behavior, such as, again, the sites that they frequently visit, purchase on e-com sites, and the interest that they show on various other websites. And here's where the advertisers or content publishers can use the rich data to really create retargeting lists, which in turn are used to send you ads relative to that particular product or piece of content that you've been working with, and try and turn that into some kind of sale opportunity, but building profiles against other people with similar behavior so they can start matching and seeing how a good aggregated campaign can work across that broad spread. So in closing on that definition, given the first party cookies are accepted automatically on your device, but web visitors must be informed that they're accepting a third party cookie. Hence, you're getting the notification now that every time you go on the site, you'll get a little banner or a pop-up at the bottom saying, read our cookie policy. These are the various parameters that we're tracking. Do you accept or not? So to close off on that point, and quotes the HubSpot.com article, it states that if you're just aiming to track your website's visitors' behavior, preferences, and basic demographics only while they're on your website, you probably won't be deeply impacted by this change. However, if you're a marketer that relies on robust data for online advertising, pop-up ads, or pinpointed audience targeting strategy, you'll need to consider alternative first-party strategies as the phase-out nears. This move, while good for consumer privacy in theory, is likely going to hurt most of the third-party ad platforms that utilize these cookies to generate revenue. Can't hear you. Kevin, I can't hear you. I don't know if there we go. Sorry, perfect, yes.
Sorry, yeah. So I mean, that's a whole bunch of information you've clarified that I wasn't aware of. But so when I get spammed with unsolicited messages or content and offers from brands that I haven't even visited, is this first or third cookies that have allowed this to happen?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question, because spam content is usually delivered from a third-party cookie tracking, Kevin. It's inevitably from the sites, the other sites that you visited, or from sites that have remained open on your browser during various search sessions. And I don't know how many sites you have open at any particular point in time, but you could be searching for a particular topic across 3 or 4, 5 different sites, and whilst you're in one environment, the other sites are open, and it's picking up the third-party cookie behavior there because it's tracked where you've gone into those other environments. So the spam is inevitably coming from that environment. And particularly interesting there, if you created a profile on the site, for instance, like an airline booking site, and you provided your name, email address, sometimes even your mobile number, that site uses third-party cookies to then identify you and passing on your information to the ad servers, and then being able to spam you on that basis. And again, the more sites that you move through on the same topic, the more you're going to be retargeted around that topic, but not necessarily from a single brand, but from multiple environments or multiple brands offering that same proposition. So in essence, though, you may think of it as spam, but really it's just referred to as contextual advertising, where the advertisers are presenting their banner campaigns on websites that rank for some keywords to what you've been searching for. Then, and that's why it's always important to understand what your keywords are and really build your strategy around keywords. So when you're going in there, you're going to aggregate up and find the brands that are associated with those keywords. So, yeah, to close on that point, there's a great statement on the Marin Software blog, which reads as follows. If you're not working with larger publishers, trying to reach your target audience based purely on demographics and behavioral data will be more challenging than ever before. Advertisers should also be aware that accurate targeting measurements across search, social, and programmatic displays will be severely limited for redirect-based solutions. Remember that the redirect underpins the ad tech stack of many of these smaller publishers, and they really depend on that third-party information so that they can see your behavior online and retarget you in those particular environments. And yeah, with this in mind, it goes without saying that advertisers definitely are in for a tough ride, Kevin, and that some serious innovation is required to pave the way for compliant but more effective targeting strategies in this particular space.
So does that mean that it's going to change how advertising does anything, Craig? Or is it all going to change?
Yes, it's going to change, and no, it's not going to change. It's just one of those complex situations. So yes, Kevin, from a regulatory point, it's definitely going to change. Particularly in terms of brands and publishers not being able to exploit your online personal information anymore. But no, from a digital marketing strategy point of view, it won't necessarily change. And this is reiterated in a quote from the marketing insight section of the Marin Software blog that I referenced earlier. It notes here that despite these major shifts, fear not. The fundamental marketing principles will stay the same, namely, putting customers first, creating meaningful interactions, and driving brand loyalty. Consumers are demanding relevant, personalized experiences served to them in a privacy-safe environment. So if you can manage the privacy aspects that you want to work within and set those parameters, and the brand is able to understand that and work with you, you'll still be able to get that hyper-targeted information to meet your needs, but in that safe, secure environment. So yeah, we read that the changes that advertising agencies are facing should not change the fundamental priorities for marketers. Think critically, understand the details, test new marketing abilities. However, digital marketing is facing new challenges in our desire to give consumers seamless and relevant experiences, while also giving customers the ability to control how much they want to see and hear from us. And again, that's why it's the yes and the no in a way, because it's really about trying to understand where that balance is about closing out and losing the opportunity of being connected with the brand, information and content you want to really being super exposed and just actually being abused from a privacy point of view.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to it, I think it's interesting because it really pushes the boundary on being innovative, coming up with better ways to do stuff or get the attention of an audience than, people previously have done. I think, we speak about AI or the whole AI factor and how that influences what the future looks like. But I think it's necessary that measures are put in place like this, that you can't just go about doing what you want to do with people's information, and it forces them to kind of do better.
Kevin, just as you're chatting, I was thinking about one of my biggest bugbears at the moment is, we're very much a car-driven society. We don't have effective public transport as you do in Europe. So the majority of the effective earning income populace in this country have a vehicle in the family, and inevitably you're going into malls, or you're going into office parks to conduct business, when COVID not as draconian as it is. And in many instances, you're having to have your driver's license card scanned, license disc on your vehicle scanned. And whilst we understand the need for security in our country, because really we have a bit of a desperate state that we live in, that information from every single one of those security companies is being abused on the back end. Because I can tell you now, the retargeting, it's exactly the same as when you're on the web. The retargeting is base information is now being given, details exist on an artist database, all your registration information, your personal details are all sitting there. That information is drawn and utilized to start pushing you, messaging around, do you want to change your insurance? Do you need an engine service? We see that your car's out of its motor plan. Do you want a motor plan extension? It is exactly the same principle of protecting your personal information. And constitutionally, there must surely be something in place where you can say, no, I actually don't want you to have it, because you are going to go and sell it, bund it up as a third-party database and exploit my information. And the security companies are desperately guilty in this regard. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also mentioned earlier that the big media houses and publishers are needing to innovate to stay ahead of the curve and ensure that opportunities for advertisers stay relevant and commercially viable. How are they going to achieve this?
Kevin, for publishers, it's really essential that they move into the future with this clear understanding in place. And we're seeing the likes of Google really putting in a huge amount of effort by providing web designers and publishers some really great simple tools to ensure that their web designs and content is constantly optimized for better user experience, and obviously through that achieving the higher rankings, which in turn hopefully turns into greater sale opportunity. So again, Kantar, I reference Kantar quite a bit in these shows. Their digital content team putting out some really great content, and they've just published a really interesting article a few days ago actually that addresses this point, and it explains how the Google's core web vitals has been developed to help publishers with the best-in-class content production and implementation, Kevin.
So that sounds like something that exists in a digital casualty ward, Craig.
God, we're chatting about COVID before this, but yeah, core vitals is a key thing there. So yeah, as with most things in life, Kevin, when you don't get the vitals right, optimal performance is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The article was published on the 1st of July this year and it's titled Core Web Vitals, a Guide for Content Producers. And the purpose of this article is to provide insights on how web content is optimized to meet latest search engine ranking criteria. And Google also spent quite a bit of time and effort into clarification of the ranking criteria to really help brands that are investing and trying to be compliant to raise up the rankings there. So what I learned from the article, Kevin, is that Google's included Core Web Vitals as ranking factors in all Google search from June 2021. I was not aware of that. And the aim there is to ensure that the various measures and signals on the ranking effectiveness are fully integrated into their ranking system from August this year. So, it's imminent and we really should hope to start seeing some interesting stats and facts coming out from brands who are adopting these practices. So whilst it does seem very technical and complex, it's actually quite straightforward, Kevin, where first and foremost, the Core Web Vitals initiative is what Google calls their page experience signals. And these are enabled to provide insights as guidance for delivering that more effective and engaging a user experience on the web that I mentioned previously. So in layman's terms, it means that the signals identify any positive or negative aspect of web user experience, specifically relating to how any of the web pages are that you visit are performing, how responsive the site is, and what impact the visual stability of that site has on the overall experience as well. And there are three areas that are defined as pillars in the Google page experience update, and I'd like to take you through those. So to quote the article again, Kevin, it states that Google believes that optimizing for Core Web Vitals will make things online easier and more delightful for users, and that these optimizations will also help propel success for online visits and online businesses. So yeah, let's hope that is a reality that's achieved, particularly as there's this rocketing growth of online presence and e-commerce capitulating from month to month. So the article addresses three core areas of focus, namely what Core Web Vitals will mean for content producers, how are Core Web Vitals measured, and optimizing content for search and Core Web Vitals. So I'd like to briefly touch on those points as they're definitely a great reminder on the importance of not just great content, Kevin, but again, going back to that entire user experience.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued about this, Craig, because you often reference the importance of great user experience.
Yeah, it's not just about great user experience. It's very much about both. But yes, at the end of the day, all the efforts are being put in place to enhance and ensure effective and great user experience. So I'm going to reference the Core Web Vitals Guide for Content Producers article again and get into a bit of a deep definition around those 3 points. So the first one that I mentioned was what Core Web, gosh, it's a tongue twister for me every time.
It is, yeah. Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah. What Core Web Vitals will mean for content producers. So it's not enough to have optimized written content that meets the Google Evaluator guidelines. And that's for web pages to rank well on Google. The user experience does need to be top of mind. Sites may still rank well with high quality content, but actually below average experience. And to truly maximize results, you've got to get a balance of the two right. That's why I say that the web experience is vitally important in that environment. Many sites are built with great content and great rich information, but the actual user experience just fails, and you'll lose a user permanently in some instances. So how are the Core Web Vitals measured? They consist of 3 performance measures, Kevin. The first is largest contentful paint, LTP, And this is really known as load speed. So goodness knows why it's given such a complex name, but nevertheless.
Yeah.
The next is the first input delay, the FID, which measures load responsiveness and user experience on a particular page, and it's a little bit more aligned to the name. And then the final reference there is the cumulative layout shift. And CLS measures the visual stability, which looks at how often there are unexpected changes or shifts on the layout of a page. So, for example, from ads or images or interstitial ads is one particular space where this is quite prevalent, Kevin. You may be searching an environment and there's a takeover interstitial ad, and it shifts the performance functionality and layout of the particular ad. So critical to see how any overlay of image actually then distracts the user experience there as well. Then the third point is optimizing content for search and core web vitals. And here it's necessary to focus on the user experience first in creating content, then laying it out on the page. And if the page is not optimized for good user experience, it can obviously then have detrimental effect on performance of Google. So as you know, the lower ranking on Google obviously results in much fewer visits to your site and therefore fewer conversions, and all the more reason to optimize content for better research and better search and obviously the better user experience. And the one way to achieve this is to ensure that all the vitals of your site enhance the user experience, and that you publish visual assets in the most efficient file formats available, and you keep them as light as possible. So not big, heavy, embedded, coded files, particularly when it comes to the likes of video and things like that. So just to summarize that, Kevin, you can optimize for visual content in the following ways. Optimize what appears to be above the fold, and as you know, that's anything that appears on your screen without scrolling. Focus on images, thinking about your content, the size, the format, your load speed. Keep it simple. Complexity delays page loads extensively. Rendering and interactivity is also quite a heavy drain on resource. And don't forget the layout. Avoid scenarios where new content is inserted dynamically above the existing content, unless it's displayed in response to a user interaction. So yes, there may well be a read more, click here, find out more button that will launch another layer of content, and that's an overlay aspect on the original content. Otherwise, just automatic, the interstitial and takeover screens and things like that is actually personally annoying, but most definitely impactful on the performance of the web.
Craig, I'm so glad that you mentioned all of this, because I remember when I when I started my website, I didn't have a budget to kind of get it done, so I kind of did everything myself, and then my fiance got involved, and it almost cost a relationship because of it. but I mean, you speak about optimization, and when you're actually doing the design of the actual website, it's unbelievably important to know that when you click on something, that it opens and it's fast enough. And we struggled with little things, that pictures weren't loading, and everything above the line just didn't fit properly. And so when you do this and you don't have a budget for it, I've been right there, and I know exactly why this stuff is so important, because I remember how frustrated I am, and making changes, and eventually to the point where every time I made a change on the website, the next day I went back to the website and my website was in Chinese. So someone had stolen some kind of login address or whatever, and it kept redirecting to a Chinese site. And so I'm completely aware of the frustration that it has, that creating this, but the necessity of making sure that it's optimized in a way that is really speaks to a professional brand that you're actually creating. So yeah, it's really interesting.
But just to add to that, though, Kevin, because you referenced the likes of your domain possibly have been stolen, or the name of your site been stolen, and having a redirected to someone else. And this is why it's vitally important to ensure that the fundamentals of business registration, domain registration, ownership of all your social media, checking the security updates on the back end, having a great relationship with the company that does the hosting of your website, that there's constant license and security renewals and updates happening in the back end. Those are vitally important aspects. And then as you get to understand the new rules around this fantastic world of what Google trying to do to make your site more effective is ensuring that you do enhancements, that you constantly are working to improve the experience, that you are eliminating the heavy downloads and things like that. But then another piece that is so often forgot in the entrepreneurial space is the optimization of a site into the Mobi environment as well. So whilst you may have a large desktop to a smaller laptop into a tablet into Mobi is really getting to understand the organization so that your content isn't mashed, messed, lost in the wrong order and things like that. And those are vitally important pieces. And startups and entrepreneurs really battle and have a hard time getting through that particular aspect. So I get what you're saying from that point of view.
And the last thing I want to mention, even the HTTPS, the S stands for secure site. So just to get these, so if you don't know how to do that, it means your site is hackable. And people come across it, they'll, if some Wally is just bored with his time and doesn't know what to do and wants to sort of hack your site and create whatever on there, or create backlinks to his site or some site, you have to have that done. And it's a symbol, it's an SSL certificate. But if you don't do it, and if you don't know how to do it, it causes havoc. It's annoying. So I'm glad it's you bringing it up as a point.
The website host companies really are there to help eliminate so many of these issues as well. However, that said, there are a couple that aren't necessarily as up to speed with the updates of security licenses and things like that, and the vulnerability still does exist in some of those environments. But really, it's about you build your business plan for good business, as we talking about with Jackie and folk like that. The business plan needs to consider the fact that you've got digital channels, and you have to have the right approach to ensuring that the digital channels are optimized for effective business, but that you're securing the back end in the way you wouldn't want somebody to be able to walk in and steal your stock out of the showroom or whatever that was. So every single principle in delivering good business practice from the day you start your business to when you're actually building out your digital strategy has to take the same solid, rigorous approach and ensure that all the steps and security mechanisms are in place throughout your business in every single touch point.
Absolutely. Craig, so as we wrap up today's discussion, do you have any key points for our listeners today?
Yeah, Kevin, I think the key here is really to go back and look at those key differences between first and third party cookies and re-emphasize the importance of understanding what is actually happening with your personal information out there. And really just interrogating every single site you go on. And a little reminder at the bottom comes up to ask you about, well, firstly, to inform you that there is tracking of your information, there is use of your information, but spend some time clicking on those buttons and actually get to understand the depths and layers again of where your information potentially is used and can be used. And then, and really opt out for every one of the opportunity presents itself. There are a couple of sites, and I remember in the early days of our history of this particular program, I was saying that there are a couple of sites that make a statement telling you where it's going to be used, as opposed to saying, hey guys, this is where you potentially can use it, opt out of those environments where you don't want it used. And I can't wait for the day for those particular publishers, and there's one in South Africa that I come across every day, and I just want to tear my hair out. It's not giving you the options to opt out. You have to then go into your policy and contact the suppliers and really go through a myriad of steps and hurdles to get to the point for it not to be used. Whereas the other really effective sites that give you the answer, strictly necessary cookies, opt-in cookies off. And then it's just being aware of these things and going through the motions of spending a few minutes to deselect, and then also just purging your use every now and then as well. So quickly to go through those differences. Firstly, looking at tracking behavior on a website. So it's either accepting or disallowing cookie usage between first and third party, setting preferences, your language settings, your visitor websites, the period of use, the personal data, age, gender, location. All of that is tracked on a website. However, in a first-party cookie environment, it's created by the site operator. It improves your user experience. It saves the settings and preferences, and this is particular for when you come back and go back into the environment, and you can immediately get straight back in, or you could possibly even get straight back into the session where you left off. It saves your preference language. It optimizes your website for each of your individual visitors based on a company website or a brand website. It enables web applications like online shops and the whole e-commerce and payment gateways. And it's basically, to quote you, harmless in terms of data usage. However, on the third-party side, it's created by literally a third party, which is an ad server. It tracks user behavior across different sites that you've viewed. It enables the observer to create unique user profiles, aggregating your behavior and then matching it with other people's behavior as well. It enables the ad server to then use that information to redirect and retarget you. It enables many methods of online marketing and tracking, as I mentioned, retargeting being key in that environment. And it's very much controversial in terms of the data usage and the word abuse, because that's really what's happening out there. And tracking cookie equals a targeted cookie. So if you say yes to tracking, just be aware of the fact that you're going to be targeted. It's as simple as that at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Craig. That was fantastic. I love that information. Always useful information that you share. And guys, if you want to check out, it's happening every Thursday at 12 o'clock, right here on eBiz Radio. You can check out the YouTube channel and the Lunchtime series with Kevin. But Craig, before we head off, what are we looking forward to next week?
Yeah, Kevin, I've put a call out to somebody really fascinating, someone I respect immensely. I've had the opportunity of spending some time with in my career. I haven't had the opportunity to confirm participation, but if it is confirmed, what I've done is I've put a call out to Tebe Kalafeng of the brand world, and I really want to talk to Tebe through his Brand Africa business on the impact of country branding, at least the impact of last 2 weeks' behavior in South Africa on country branding.
Yeah.
And just really talk about the methodology of country branding. And if we can't get Tebe, I will then share his methodology and the likes. Is fascinating to have a conversation on country branding. But I really wanted to bring him along onto the show to give us a first-hand analysis and review of what happens at an economic or a political level and how it impacts on country branding.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Craig, thank you. Thanks for today, and thanks for chatting.
Thank you, Kevin.
Chat
Keep warm out there. Yeah, thanks.
Cheers. Bye.